So another thing I like to talk on this show is sacrificing, and sacrifice is needed to make it. A lot of people think that real estate can be a get rich quick scheme. They feel like that it is always just they hear the glory of the DIY network, of the, Chip and Joanna Gaines and their show. I love Chip and Joanna, and I've read all of their books that they have, and they'll tell you straight up, it's not like the show. But what sacrifices do you feel you've had to make? Like some of your biggest monumental sacrifices that you think you've had to make for you to make it throughout these years of investing?
Yeah, I love that you say that and kind of talk about that, because that is the reality. Is we have a motto, my family, Harris's do hard things. And so you get to choose your hard. So the hard of, let's say, putting in the work in the gym, working out every day, you can choose that. Or by default, the harder of being overweight and unhealthy and dying 5 or 10 years early. Maybe you don't get to see your kids graduate. Maybe you don't get to be there for their wedding. And that's pretty damn hard. But the thing is do you do the hard of working out every day so that you can be there and at least position yourself? And I'm not saying that just because you work out every day, you can't have crazy things happen. You get struck by lightning, the bus hits you crossing the street, something like that. But the reality is that you have certain things that you can control. Mm-hmm. And so from sacrifice is what my intention around that is that the things that you can control, do those. And it often relates to is, everyone has fear. I have fear. You have fear. Those fears are different. And there's a breakdown of those fears. And it's often a feel of failure, of embarrassment, of, abandonment, of rejection. Even people have fears of success. They're afraid of success. They're afraid of sharing their light. And so, and all of these that we all have in us. And there's an amazing book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Wrote Think and Grow Rich. Outwitting the Devil didn't come out until maybe the 90s or 2000s. They held it off until long after he had passed away. And the reality is everything in the world is in balance. There's God and the devil. There's the positive electrons and the negative electrons. Everything kind of comes in balance. And so everything is both positive and negative. But as humans, we have the ability to construct our meaning and value of that thing. So like I did earlier, that losing all the money, the going through foreclosure, losing, millions of dollars of value of real estates and sitting on a street corner in Tucson and crying, which I talk about in the book. It was like, how is that a benefit for me? At the time, it sure didn't feel like a benefit, but the long term was that added to me. It allowed me to, retool. And so there are sacrifices. You have to go face those fears. You have to go put yourself in a place. And that is oftentimes you're going to have to leave behind the person that you once were. And you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So then it comes back to is like, what was young Jake? And as a father, and I see this now, and it's not about buying the things, your kids, the things that you wish you had. It's about teaching them things you wish you learned. And so that becomes such an amazing and powerful thing is like exactly what you said earlier. Teach them these things that you wish you learned. Maybe we can create the constructs of the environment. Let's play cash flow. Let's go play these games. What are assets? What are liabilities? How does credit work? And so you have the ability to kind of manipulate the environment and incept some of these concepts, but then you don't actually have the ability to make sure that they do that. So, but understanding is how can you start teaching those things and plant that seed that hopefully at some point in the future that connects through. And what we even talked about earlier was frequency is also a really big thing. Sometimes people can't hear certain things at certain timing. What I'm saying right now, there's some people it's not going to resonate with.
Yeah.
I don't like them. I don't like guys with bald heads. If they're a bully with the thing. Tony Robbins can go say something, and I can actually say the exact same words that Tony Robbins says. And some people can't hear it from Tony Robbins, but they can hear it from me. And so what happens is, like, you think about it, is like there's radio frequencies on the radio station, 92.7 and 101.1. If you're turned in at 101.1, it doesn't matter that they're playing the same exact song at 92.7. You can't hear it because you're not tuned into that frequency. You're not connected to that thing. And so, like, for me, talking about was facing my own fears, that fear of the imposter syndrome. Like, they've already heard this, they can go read the same books. But the reality is that sometimes at the right time and the right message and the right frequency and the right consistently, it connects through and it triggers something in you. I'm never going to teach you anything on your own. It is only you unlocking yourself that something connects and it weighs on your heart and it connects with your soul, that you're like, I'm going to make a decision now. I'm moving forward. I'm going to do these next things to better my future, go work out more, invest in and take action. But I can't actually do any of those things for anybody.
A lot of people ask me, why do you read the same book like once every year? And it's exactly what you're saying. Sometimes you're just not ready to interpret the words on the page the way that you need to. And you're not in frequency to read that sentence the way it needs to be read. I mean, I've read, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book Rhinoceros Success by Alexander Hill. I read that book once a year, and every year I get something new out of it. When I first read it, it was, okay, I'm not a cow. I'm not in the grazing pasture. I'm in the jungle, and I'm charging after my goals. It was great motivation to get me off my butt and moving forward. And then the more I read it, the more I'm pulling out little pieces of, well, okay, I'm an advanced rhino now. I'm not just a normal rhino. I'm now a great white rhino. and you read, Cash Flow Quadrant, or I read Fake by Kiyosaki, he talks about fake teachers and fake money. And, I've read that once, but I've also read it again. And every time I read something, I get something new out of it. I'm doing some James Wedmore training right now. He is a guy that teaches business by design, and he calls it his Wedmore woo-woo, where he goes and we do hypnosis events, and we do hypnosis like little periods of time in the training. And I go back and I do them, and he has the same prompts throughout them, but every time there's something a little bit different that I either visualize or something I feel. And then usually the next day there's something new that I want to take on, something new that I want to figure out more. So love what you're saying about the frequencies. Here at Dawn.